You were like, should we go in and just tell them all of our deepest, darkest secrets?
I
I was
know.
like, let's go all in, baby, all or nothing.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Alpha Drop. I'm Jackie Roach.
And I'm Rachel Buchanan, and we are creating conscious conversations.
You may be wondering what the Alpha Drop is. Most of us spend our waking life in beta brainwaves. These are the brainwaves that help us solve logical problems and get things done in the world and puzzle solve. And sometimes those beta brainwaves can have a mind of their own and just go crazy. And that's when you want to meditate and actually slow those brainwaves down and feel the alpha drop.
Yes. A lot of times it can be this like physical, relaxed sensation, but your mind is awake and aware. You're in this like state of creative flow. And that's why we're here. We just want to like create this state of conscious, creative flow and be able to bring you into our world and share a little bit about different perspectives that we have on all kinds of things. And we actually met in a meditation certification course where we were learning this specific sequence of meditation where we dropped into this, like we were introduced into the alpha drop.
Yes.
Jackie and I just happened to meet at exactly the right time.
I know. It's really crazy to think about, February 1st, I signed up for this certification, not realizing we were going to go into a global pandemic. That thank God I was meditating 2 to 3 times a day during. It's been so helpful in my own life to keep myself grounded. Things are just changing so incredibly fast right now. It's a good tool to have in the old toolbox there.
Yeah, something that anybody can do and get benefit from. So yeah.
So we're in the alpha drop space. We are in creative flow. We are in focused receiving and transmitting mode right now.
Yes.
Yeah. And actually, we were just talking yesterday about your husband and your brother had a conversation about like time, sort of like all this innovation that we have gone throughout humanity and how it's like just getting shorter and shorter and shorter right now.
Yeah. It's really amazing. I don't remember the specifics, but it's something that, the amount of time that it took for man to be created and be able to stand up took however many tens or hundreds. I actually don't remember the specifics of how long that was, but, a really long period of time. And then the development of fire took however many tens of thousands of years. And then the development of the wheel. But with every major development, the time frame has been getting shorter and shorter and shorter, to whereas now like that same period of innovation is happening like every 26 seconds, that our whole world is moving so fast that it's no wonder a lot of us find it hard to kind of like keep up energetically.
The mathematician Terence McKenna actually like predicted this in the 60s. He actually had a formula for right around this time, innovation would actually fold in on itself and that everything would get so quick. And then we would go back into entering these periods where it's longer and longer. So not only did Rachel and I have meditation in common, but we also found out we're blockchain crypto chicks together. And this is like insane, crazy foundational technology that's really laying the groundwork for these long gaps of innovation. So it's definitely a good time to have your head on straight for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. My brother did this webinar, and because he's a blockchain trainer and educator, and he does applied blockchain courses. And anyway, he had this image of the internet, like the development of the internet, and all the way back from like 1965 into I think it was 2012 ish. And as far as blockchain goes, we're all the way back at like 1960. We're at the very beginning of this explosive growth that's about to happen. And, being able to be a part of a conversation that's going to be solving problems in the future and thinking outside of the box, I think we're kind of taking that framework, but applying it to our personal development, our relationships, how we're working ourselves, our business, our life in general. And that's part of like the overall conversation that we're looking to have.
It's so interesting to me when I really started looking into my own personal lineage and thinking about the things generations before me have had to go through. And then for me, I felt like I had this like collapsed experience of it because so much is changing that like I'm just not getting this whole lifetime to handle a couple things. It's like all the things.
Right. All the things all at once. Yeah, I think that is, and what a time to be kind of going through this consciousness awakening. I think as a global society, humanity has had such an opportunity just in the last few months to really examine, who are they? What is me? What isn't me? What is important? And like really distill so much, because it's just been kind of this light that whenever everything started to slow down just for a minute, this light kind of was shining down on exactly who you are, and your family, your whole situation and purpose. I mean, I think a lot of people used the last few months to really dig deep and figure out more clarity and information and insight. So I think it kind of brought to light a lot of more of who people really are, whether that was a person coming from love or fear, or, the kind of any variation of the two. But yeah, what an opportunity we are really just to be alive and aware of what's going on right now. So,
Yeah. And I mean, just to piggyback on that, I mean, I even remember like when, I had worked in the newspaper industry for 12 years. And when I left that, I had this question, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? And it was through meditation that just one by one, I started crossing off like who I'm not. And that was sort of like the first thing I had to do to get to baseline, to even really ask the question, who am I? It's insane and amazing how many conditions we pick up, throughout our lifetime. And then you hit this point where you're just like, and I think, this pandemic really, like you said, it made people go like, it just broke up our routine enough to say, what are the things I'm partaking in day to day? How do they make me feel? And yeah, and it took away a lot of our distractions as well. So.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, and I think part of what we're hoping that this will inspire is the free will and responsibility of choice, and that we actually get to choose how and where we're showing up, in our lives and what we're actually doing. Because I think a lot of times it's just so easy to get in this like reactive state, and in this, excess beta brainwave, you're just like reaction, or even fight or flight, and you're just like surviving. So many people, including myself at times, have just all of a sudden you just realize, oh wow, I'm like not actually thriving, I'm just surviving. And is that really the life that you want to be experiencing? Because we are like 100% creating our reality with like all of our thoughts, our emotions, our actions, like everything that we're doing, we are creating more of. Our attention is writing our future. So we need to be really careful about the things that we're thinking about, being influenced by, and creating, because we're just creating more of that. And what are you looking to create more of?
And it's so interesting how even terms just like pay attention, like what do you pay attention to? And you realize that your attention is your money. It is your like, you want to know who you are? Look at your Google search,
Yeah.
like what you are participating in, that's who you are.
Yeah. Your attention is the currency of transformation. So
Yes.
the more you're paying attention to whatever it is, that's what you're going to get more of. And yeah, absolutely.
It's like when you buy a yellow car and then all you see is yellow cars out there because it's been brought into your attention, Yeah.
I did that way back in the day with a black Jetta. It's like one of my first cars. I was so excited to get that black Jetta, and then I saw them everywhere.
You can tell we're in like the same age group because when I was growing up, everyone had Jettas and Cavaliers. I was a Cavalier girl.
In actuality, just so everybody else knows, like Jackie and I don't really know each other all that well. We met in this course and just had this like instant, like sisterly soul recognition connection. So we're learning and growing with each other a lot. And so it's going to be this whole idea of this podcast and is a way for us to be able to just like have fun and really figure out what is working for one person, what's worked for another person, learn and grow from each other's experiences. And hopefully in like sharing all of that, we'll be able to hopefully give some sort of insight to anybody that's going through like the murky waters of this transformation, because I actually thought that it only happened once. Like I started my master's in transpersonal psychology when I was like 27. And I thought, oh, this is great. Like I want to be able to help women in their mid 20s, because this is like such an amazing time to like learn and grow. And I thought it only happened once. And here I am like almost 40 and going through the same thing. It's like, who am I? What do I want? What is my purpose? Oh, wait, this actually never ends.
Never ends. I know. Well, and that's, honestly, that's a big fallacy of living linearly, which I was certainly brought up to do. And a lot of us get caught in that. And when we don't recognize the creative cycle, like we don't even realize we're in cycles all the time. You have constant feedback loops. You have constant opportunities to be taking control of your life, to be making choices. And yet, just like you mentioned before, how many of us are guilty of, you're putting your job first, everyone else first, and your family and all that. You'll deal with that if you have time. And it's like, that should be the priority number one. But, we get off track.
Even just the last few months, me reprioritizing the things that I want to do and really just doing those things first. And I love the idea of, just because you find one or two things that work for you, whether it's like doing some spiritual writing or journaling in the morning and doing a meditation or doing a workout or, doing there's so many different things, but just because you do those things and you feel really good as the foundation of your day doesn't mean that you can't continue to do more amazing things that are continue to fill your cup up so you can really show up as the person that you were supposed to be throughout the day. Because I have gotten in the, routine of just doing a couple of things in the morning because, sometimes that's like, you feel like, oh, I've got to fit everything into this 1 hour in the morning or whatever. And it's like, actually, you can do little things throughout the whole day. And like, don't just stop whenever you find the couple of things that work for you. And we're going to be like going over all these different tools to help people as well that we've found useful. So.
Well, it's even, just going right back to the alpha drop. I mean, one of the big reasons we responded to this was when you realize that you're putting your brain in beta brain waves all day and you're never giving it a break, you're never giving it rest and repair, it's just as damaging as doing high intensity workouts every single day. Like you need a break, you need
multiple
to mix it
a
up. Yeah. It would be like
if you were doing that is the equivalent of what I would think of as doing those exercises like 3 or 4 times a day. Like that's not sustainable. And it's at some point, your body is going to shut down. I mean, 80% of physical symptoms, start as a emotional or energetic imbalance. And, to just stop it, go to the root cause and figure out, okay, what do we need to do? You need to slow down and start paying attention for one thing, because it's like the root cause of most disease. And, it just depends on how far you want to go. You're actually bringing these experiences into your life because you have an opportunity to learn and grow. They aren't happening to you. They're happening for you. And it's all an opportunity to learn and grow. And it's really a gift,
So many people get caught in this idea of like good and evil and, light and dark and bad and good and being on a team and like really identifying with something like deeply rooted on one side of duality. Mm-hmm. And so much of it is recognizing that the dark is the opportunity to see the light, like these things. And we were talking about the other day, why do people need to be seen when it comes to personal development? And a lot of it is like, you just need to acknowledge these things. You can't keep stuffing them down. You can't keep ignoring them. You can't keep labeling them as bad because like you said, they are here for you. They are here for you to grow.
Exactly. And when you come into the dark, like if you're going into a situation or a past life experience and that you are seeing as kind of a dark time, but you're coming now from a place of love, you're bringing that light into that space to really see with clarity, like what is really going on here and how can I, get the most from it, because it's all good, you know?
I was in my coaching call the other day, and we were talking about this whole creative cycle. And she had actually said, she mentioned, the void, this darkness, think of how fertile that is. Like, that's what the void is. It's fertile ground. You think of seeds, they're planted underground in a cold, dark place, and they blossom, by watering them, by giving them attention, by I talk to my plants. So by talking to them, this is like, and I'm one of those people that I lived most of my life suppressing and ignoring these things until it all caught up with me over like a 6-month period. And, basically I would go back and say, if I had to label it now, I think I literally had like a nervous system breakdown. Like, people call it a nervous breakdown, but I honestly believe, like, between the way I was feeling, I was having tons of physical symptoms. Like, my body was just burnt out and done. It was like, you can't keep ignoring this stuff.
Mm-hmm. I had a really similar experience I didn't realize like what a rut I had been in until my body literally just like shut down. And I ended up having to have like this like emergency surgery, and I was out for weeks. And that's whenever I kind of really dug deep into like, okay, now's the time to really, you have a choice. You're at a crossroads. Are you going to, which way are you going to go? And I just started reading all the books. I was, and getting into it. And it finally got to a point where I read like 3 books in a row, and I realized that I could have written them. Like, I already had all the information in me, and I no longer needed this like outside learning or validation. And now it was my time to start like showing up, doing the thing, and, getting rid of all of the fear, facing any guilt, getting rid of that, like just doing the thing and living and being. And that I didn't need to continually have this like student, mentality. Because if you're always searching, like, we're always learning. But if you have this like constant searching, then it's like, when is it going to be enough? At some point you have to put the book down and do the exercises, kind of thing,
Yeah. And I always compare it, if you consume a ton of calories and don't work out, you're going to gain physical weight. And if you're just taking in knowledge calories, intellectual calories, and you're not burning them out in the world or actually applying what you're learning, like, you're just going to have intellectual weight on your brain. And that's when you can't focus. And that's when you don't have clarity, because you have 5 million things swirling around. I mean, that was my experience anyway. So getting into meditation was one of the best things that came into my life, because I was actually able to focus on one idea, or just like I said, just slow down the overthinking that was so prone to.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember my very first yoga class, and that was the first time that I'd actually slowed my mind down at the end, whenever you're just like resting.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like completely addicted. It's like, oh wait, this is actually amazing. And I started going to yoga all the time, really not even noticing or realizing that I was going to the yoga to go and get like the workout or whatever. But I was at the end, like the quiet time. That's what I was just like really craving, was that just shh.
It's so funny that I had a similar experience. The first time I went to yoga, I remember I didn't know we did that at the end. So we're all laying there, and she's like, I want you to think of your best friend, and what's some advice you would give them to right now. And I was like thinking about my best friend, and I was like, oh, I totally tell her this, whatever. And she's like, and now I want you to know that you're your best friend, and say that to yourself. And I was like, I did not know I was going to be crying. I thought this was a workout.
I came here for yoga.
I know. And then I was like, so meet all 20 of you tomorrow to cry together again? Perfect.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's so great to have like these partners in expansion, because we all come into each other's lives at exactly the right time to learn and grow and do all of these things together. So I'm really grateful that I met you in the Alpha Drop.
Yeah, we did. And like, even I remember the first time when we were going through the course and we did the meditation, we did a whole group meditation, and we came back, and the developer was like, does anyone want to share? And I was like, I'll share. And then I started reading, and I was like 2 sentences in, I was crying again. I was like, oh my God, Jackie, you just cannot stop these waterworks. This is an emotional time for you.
Yeah, yeah. We all go through it. I mean, really, this is like the peaks and valleys of life and just going through it. Well, and really this so much of this dis-ease is caused by keeping these emotions trapped in our bodies. I'm an acupuncturist, and we work through this in patients so many times. Like our organs store different, the energetics of different emotions. Different organs store different things. And so whenever people would come in with XYZ, sometimes you have to actually look at like, what is the energetic emotional imbalance, and when was there a trauma there that could be stored there. So it's just really, I mean, everything is so intertwined, and I think that a lot of people are coming to realize that now. And this is why we have to have so much responsibility, and with our thoughts, bodies, actions, like everything is so connected.
We talk about meditation and going into the alpha drop and being silent and getting that guidance and having that grounding. And it really is so important because there are just triggers everywhere for everyone right now.
I think you have to be really conscious about like, where are you getting the things that are you are allowing the most influence, right? Whether it's news or people, conversations, situations, like, because it can be anything that kind of sets you off and triggers a emotional response. And then what is that, and how do you deal with it? Is it are you in alignment with you as a person? Is it you? Is it not you? There's just like yeah, it can be, a little exhausting, just processing.
It is. And I mean, it's like we talked about before, like going into the dark and going into the void. And it's like when you feel this trigger from someone, and these are people that are your friends, your family, anyone, that you've mentioned it before, the word contrast, that trigger is there to just reflect back to you. What are you getting upset about and why? And are you going to continue to partake in this activity or not? Moving forward.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, let me write a comment.
Or respond to the text or the email or whatever. I've had a constant, I guess, lesson with a family member and with even just recently with a friend of just like, is it my opportunity to teach a lesson, or is it my responsibility? Is it my responsibility to teach someone a lesson? And it's like, no, not at all. Like even if and by getting offended or getting upset and responding and trying to say like, oh, this is what I think, and let me try and teach you a lesson, like that isn't helpful at all, because all you're doing is like adding fuel to the fire. They're going to learn whatever they're going to learn. And it's definitely not anybody's responsibility to try and like prove their point to the point of like, I don't know, trying to.
Yeah. And that's, I think,
you can't teach someone anything.
And it's one of the worst things we suffer and we literally suffer from it. I mean, I did for a long time, like my whole 20s, I've told you before, I was very academic. I had no emotional connection, but boy, was I intellectual. I could rattle off New York Times figures. And I mean, I read newspapers constantly because I was printing them. We printed 20 different publications at our print site. So, I mean, I read papers from like we printed the New York Times, so I would read it every day. And I remember that time period that I was probably the most popular I ever was in my life. And I was going on Facebook and I would, write these really intellectual, huge, long posts, and I would get likes and comments and everybody was behind me. And I mean, it was a total savior complex on my end. Like, I didn't know that that's like by concentrating on everybody else and how we're going to save the world while I was going home and having like absolutely a horrible personal life. And it's like, and even now I'm like above that, but I don't want to say above that, but I've dealt with it enough that I know what I'm in when I'm in it. But it's still hard for me to watch so many other people just like giving all of their energy away into these things. And it's such a suckhole. It's such a, I mean, I'm not saying ignore this or like put your head under the sand or anything like that, but like, what's useful to you? What can you actually take action on, and what is just grabbing your attention? Because the media, man, they want it. That's how they make their money.
Yeah. I've been on a happiness diet for a long time. When I was like in my, I guess, early 20s, I was going to see this therapist to like help me through this time. And he said that he was on a happiness diet. And I was like, well, what does that mean exactly? And he's like, I don't watch the news or have any sort of like outside influence. I'm really particular in what exactly I allow into my like consciousness. And I pretty much just, if there is something that I feel passionate about that I know is going on, then I will go and help that cause. Like it was during the time where like BP like had this oil spill in the Gulf, and like it was
right, because you were in Florida.
and on and on and on. And yeah, I was living in Florida. I lived there for like 30, I don't know, 6 years. And
20 years.
I know, like how am I going to give away my age here? But yeah. And I just thought that was a great way to frame it. It's like, unless I can actually go and do something, and I think following your emotions, like, is this bringing you joy? You know, is this how you want to be feeling? Because if you're doing things that aren't giving you the positive like emotion that you want, then is that something that you really want to be doing?
Yeah. And I mean, and honestly, that's honestly why I became so passionate about blockchain, because, you know, in 2016,
Really?
oh yeah. When in 2016, when I was, so I was working at the newspaper, and I was, fortunate that they sponsored me through my MBA, and my MBA was in global supply chain management. And when I started taking classes where you had to sit down and pore over logistics contracts that included human trafficking, and like, you know, I started to learn, and I had been working on docks and in logistics for years. And I knew, you know, drugs and stuff like that. I knew that happened on docks. Like I've seen crazy things come through docks and through trucking. And my dad was we've been in logistics. My whole lineage was in logistics, and no surprise, we were always poor. So anytime you wanted to bring something up to a manager, so guess what? They already brought it up to somebody, and they were told to turn a blind eye, and they were told, you know, so now I'm at this spot where, you know, I really in depth knew about this world, and we're seeing it in the news now, all this sex trafficking, this Epstein stuff. It's, you know, it's all connected. There's governments that cooperate in these things. And I've sat here so many times and wondered, what am I really supposed to do with the rest of my life, knowing that all this evil goes on? And then when I started around that same time, I learned about blockchain and how this new industry was going to provide total transparency, and how it ran on decentralized servers, and how it was, you know, expertly encrypted. And I was like, wow, these are actual solutions for a global problem that you're not going to read about every day in the news, that we haven't even had a chance to actually address this until this moment. And so part of me, my heart breaks because we're going through this. But then another part of me is just like, you have to focus on building the new, because that's what this purge is about. That's what getting all these nefarious individuals. All right, I'm off my soapbox.
Yeah. Well, it's like what Mr. Rogers said.
Oh shit, no, Mr. Rogers, you're gonna pull my neighbor in here now?
We're bringing it back to Mr. Rogers. I mean, he was like, look, whenever you see, you know, terrible things on the news, it's like, how can you put that in a framework for children? And it's like, look for the helpers, look for the solutions, be part of the change, like actually come up with the solutions. I love that blockchain is really trying to, or is going to be, the outside of the box problem solving, like actual application for so many businesses. And the whole idea of like ethical blockchain, and what does that look like, and how can they, like, companies actually utilize this in a way that's going to be transparent and like ethical, is just an interesting conversation. And we're so at the beginning of all of this that there's truly explosive growth. And I know we're probably talking about blockchain, and some people are like, what the heck is blockchain? Is that Bitcoin? Like, yeah. And I mean, so, you know, it doesn't have to, you may not know about exactly like blockchain and what it does and all of the intricacies now, and we can talk about it more, but everybody in 5 years, everyone is going to know what it is, how it works, and it's going to be a intrinsic part of everyone's life as soon as we like work out the just how to make it easy for everybody to use, because right now it's like jumping through hoops to get.
Well, right now there's so many, and you mentioned it before. I mean, there's just so many projects going on. So it's kind of like the .com bubble. You know, you weren't sure what .coms were going to take off and be successful. So we're not sure right now which exactly blockchain projects, but I mean, IBM is working on this. The heaviest hitters in our world right now are implementing this infrastructure as we speak. You know, the one of the really amazing things that's come out of this pandemic was slowing down the supply chain so people could actually get a handle of inventory, of process, of this whole middle part that everybody ignores. You know, we invent a product and it's in your store, but a lot of people don't think about, like, this went to a processing center, a manufacturing center, a logistics center, a distribution center. Like, tons of people have touched this along the way.
It's really, really cool. I think we have a really great opportunity to bring some people that we are connected with onto the show in the next few episodes to kind of really help break this down in probably a easier to digest way than we could, because that's what they do, is explain this to
yeah, and we've both been, I mean, it's crazy how many like synchronicities exist between us. You know, it's like just so many things have happened, and I'm glad we're doing this podcast, because I think we're both living proof of you know, where you place your attention, the connections will be there. Let things do the work and let things happen, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of like riding a wave. I'm from Florida, but I'm not a surfer. But I kind of equate this whole thing of just this active relaxation in a way. It's like you got to paddle out to the ocean and then find the wave, and you've got to like catch the wave. But there's this great balance of like being completely like lasered and focused, but also completely relaxed in order to like ride the edge of the wave and like find that balance to where you're just continually like on that crest. It's kind of like the razor's edge. So it takes work to kind of be in that embodiment. And like, I really love the idea of, you know, you were talking earlier about just reading, having all of this information and, you know, in your brain. And I think just the whole I guess transformation and transmuting that information into like knowledge and then like embodied wisdom, like that's just, I think where both of us are at this point. It's like, okay, we have like information is free. It's easy. You can look up anything, but really to like be on that place of the surfboard, really embodying that like wisdom, finding the razor's edge of whatever it is that you're going to, and being relaxed enough to like lean in and know that like the gravity, like you're on the right thing. The rest of the wave is just going to take you.
Yeah. It's so much fear and trust.
Yeah.
Getting over fear of being on the wave and trusting that, you know, you're working in harmony with the material around you to, like you said, transmute and alchemize that fear and turn, you know, that's a great analogy, because I mean, there's just so many people that, you know, oh, paddling out's going to be too much work. Is it really going to be a reward? Is it really going to be that good? You know, and you don't know until you do it. Like, I mean, that's the craziest part of personal development. And it's like, you can just tell the people that have done the inner work and who's just read the books, you know?
Right. Well, the only difference between like the people that are living the life that they want to live is they've made more mistakes. They're not afraid to make mistakes, you know? And it's just like, I love that idea. I was just thinking like the only difference between like a good surfer and someone who maybe not as good is they've crashed more times. They've like got the sand all in their hair and they've been a mess more often than the other person, and they're not afraid to just get up and get back out there. And it's like in every area of our life. I mean, how many times have, you know, it's just like coming back, you know, in our just daily lives. Okay, now what's important? Oh yeah, I'm not in alignment. Well, coming back and all the time. It's just this constant, like coming back into the light, love, like all the things, and being in that purpose and authenticity of who you are and what you came here to do and be.
And I'm always amazed how many people understand that if they really want to change their body, they're going to go to the gym, they're going to try different exercises, they're going to, you know, and they realize, you know, this is a forever thing. This is a lifestyle change. But when it comes down to tackling their emotional intelligence, like you said, we all think like, well, I was sad that one time and I got over it. Why am I still getting sad again? Like, I thought I read the book about getting over sadness and I did not anticipate visiting this again. And it's like, yeah, like you said, you have to keep attacking the emotion. I mean, not attacking them, but you have to keep working with them and like keep being resilient and keep getting back up and realize that they're just, you know, they're never going to go away. They're always going to be there. So,
well, and this whole like reawakening, I mean, the idea that I only thought that this big transformation awakening only happened in your 20s. I mean, how, like, I don't know, short-sighted is that? That's a 20s perspective of like, oh wow, this is it. This is my transformation, and that's all I'm going to have. I mean, it's like this constant process. I like beat myself up when the pandemic was just kind of starting to unfold and they started shutting everything down. And I was such an empath. I was taking on like all of the emotions and thoughts of like everybody around me, even the closest people in my family. And I started just freaking out. And when I kind of came to and I started really dedicating to my meditation practice and started working out again, I was like, wait, I know I have all these tools. Like, how did I forget? I mean, I kind of was I was kind of like slapping my own wrist, like, you should know this already. Like, you've been through this, you've done that. It's like, oh yeah, I have all these tools. Like, but you got to remember to bring them out. Just because you learned them doesn't, you have to apply them over and over and over. And life is going to give you lots of opportunities to do it over and over and over again. They're like, oh, you got that lesson? Okay, let's make sure.
Yeah. I think everybody is, and I know you think this too, like everyone's just such an individual. Like what's going to work for you might need to be tweaked or whatever, but and it's cool to just have these conversations with other people that are interested in it.
Yes, I know. I'm so glad that we are in the same orbit. Thank you so much for joining us on our very first Genesis episode of
the alpha episode.
The alpha episode.
Of the alpha drop.